This video is about fertilising. It's not a this is what you definitely need to do. This is bare minimum stuff with options for those of you that are looking to grow plants properly, as opposed to those of us like me who are just bare minimum trying to keep their plants alive. Firstly, I'm just going to cover quickly why we need to fertilise plants, or whether we need to fertilise plants. I don't fertilise my houseplants until I've had them for about a year. One, because I'm quite lazy and forget. Two, when they come from the garden centre, often they will have fertiliser already in the soil. Sometimes it's like little blue pellets. Sometimes you can't see it, it's like a clear gel. But usually the soil will be nutritious enough to last your plant for a year without it declining. If you do notice it declining and you can't see any other reason and you think your plant might need fertilising, then go ahead. But in general, leave your plants for a year and then start fertilising them. The reason we fertilise is we have to add nutrients to the plants that they wouldn't already get. Some people describe it as being like a multivitamin, but it's a bit more than that. So humans can live exclusively on potatoes and butter. We can get all the nutrients we need and energy to sustain us for a decent amount of time. There was a study done on the railroads in America, and potatoes and butter and we will live perfectly happily. But it's not ideal, and we want to thrive. We don't want to just survive. And it's the same with plants. In the rainforest or wherever they come from, there'll be leaf litter and mulch and animal poop that will add nutrients to the soil. And whilst we can allow leaf litter to fall, dead leaves to fall onto the soil, it's not ideal because we end up with fungus gnats, which the rainforest doesn't care about, but we do. Like I said in another video, fungus gnats aren't the worst thing you can get, but they are annoying, so we will try and get rid of them, and I will come to that later. Fertilising plants can lead to fungus gnats, and we don't want those. When it comes to picking a fertiliser, don't overthink it. Just buy whatever comes up from your garden centre. Houseplant fertiliser is fine. I personally use seaweed emulsion. A lot of people use fish emulsion. I don't know, I'm guessing the fish emulsion will smell fishy. I've seen reports that it's grim. The seaweed emulsion doesn't smell incredible, but it doesn't leave a lingering smell, so it's fine. So I do like using that. The benefit of using a seaweed emulsion is if you're a bit heavy-handed, then it's more forgiving. It's quite natural, so there's all the nutrients you need, but it's not a harsh chemical formula. I've got nothing against synthetic fertilisers. I just prefer using seaweed because it's natural and I'm a bit of a hippie. So yeah. There is a lot of DIYs on Pinterest about making your own plant fertiliser, and I can't recommend this because of the fungus gnats that I mentioned before. Banana skins, I'm trying to think of other ones. Banana skins is the main one, and they're high in nitrogen, so there's nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium are the three sort of macronutrients. That's probably not what they're called, but that's what the sort of main composition of fertilisers. You can get different strengths. I will go for a balanced one. When you're looking to buy a fertiliser, it will have the values of the three main nutrients on the box, usually. And I would go for something like 5-5-5 or 10-10-10. If you're looking for perfection, you can get specific fertilisers for individual plants, but I just use seaweed emulsion for everything. But it just a bog standard houseplant fertiliser will be absolutely fine. When it comes to the actual mechanics of fertilising, it can be as easy or as complicated as you like. I fill a watering can and just put a few drops of the seaweed emulsion in. You can read the label and it'll tell you how much to dilute the fertiliser. I generally recommend to half that. I'm not trying to imply that the fertiliser companies are trying to get money out of us by over-fertilising plants, but I just think it's better to be safe than sorry. Over-fertilising can quite quickly kill plants. It can cause their roots to burn, so we don't want to do that. I fertilise my plants the lazy way, which is a few drops of fertiliser in a watering can, and I water all my plants with that every 6 weeks. But the day before I plan on fertilising my plants, I go around and water them all or check they've got moist soil, because if you water a bone-dry plant with fertiliser, it can suck up too much fertiliser and you can end up with root burn. So it's best to water a plant when it's got damp soil rather than very dry soil. Whilst yes, that can lead to overwatering, you can do it, you can sort of go around and water your plants and then go around and fertilise, but as long as you're not overwatering your plants the rest of the time, they will be fine. Every 6 weeks, just water them. I water them one day and then the next day I fertilise them, but you could just water them and then go around and fertilise them, whichever is easiest. If you want a slightly more holistic approach to fertilising, what you can do is use worm castings, which is worm poop, and top dress so put the worm castings on the top of the soil, mix it up a bit with a chopstick or something, and then that's the fertiliser, and you don't need to do anything else to it. That would normally last about a year, I would say. It does vary, just check on your plants and see if they look like they need feeding. It is quite hard to tell when plants need feeding. In general, they start getting a bit, they call it chlorotic, the leaves start to go yellow and they just look generally sad. But just make sure that you're sure that the plant is hungry and it's not overwatered and it's getting enough light, that sort of thing. Don't see a problem and think, oh yeah, it's hungry, because it probably isn't. It might be something else. It's quite hard to tell if plants are in need of fertilising, so just be sure that your plants are relatively healthy before you go ahead and fertilise them. General signs are yellowing leaves, but a lot of yellowing leaves, and make sure you check that they're yellow because they're chlorotic, not that they're overwatered and the plant has root rot. But often you'll get, I'll insert a photo, it looks a bit like thrips damage. The plant will sort of yellow in the middle and it'll look like somebody's got an eraser and rubbed the green off and it's yellow underneath. That's often a sign. That's what my Monstera adansonii does when it's hungry. So yeah, if you are a lazy person and you want bare minimum, water your plants every 6 weeks with fertiliser added and you're done. In the growing season. The growing season varies from plant to plant, from house to house, where you live. I have some plants that grow all year round. And it's not plant specific. So I have 2 snake plants. One grows all year round, one only grows in the summer. And I fertilise the one that's still growing all year round. So you can not fertilise in winter if you would prefer, if you're scared you're going to over-fertilise. But in general, if a plant is growing, fertilise it, because it's still using nutrients as it's growing. If it's not growing, you can end up essentially poisoning it, because you're giving it more nutrients and there's nothing it can do. So yeah, it's just poisoned. There's only so much they need to use the nutrients rather than just sit in them. But I do have, if you're the kind of person that really does your homework and really wants the absolute best for your plants, not me, I do have a method for, it will take a couple of hours to sort out, but then it's sort of fairly easy to keep on top of, to get each of your plants on the optimum fertilising regime. I would still only use one fertiliser. If you want to, maybe you can use a specific orchid one, but in general, I just pick one, fertilise it for all. But you know, there might be some plants that will need fertilising every 2 weeks if they're growing really quickly, and some that may only need fertilising once every 2 months or something. And what I recommend you do, if you want to, you don't have to, every 6 weeks is fine for most plants. I was just trying to devise a method because somebody asked me, and I came up with lolly sticks. These were under £5 from Amazon, and they're wooden. I'd thought about using maybe post-it notes or something, but I couldn't find anything that would last a decent amount of time and wasn't a hideous amount of plastic and serves other purposes. So I came up with lolly sticks, and there's 6 different colours, and all you have to do, and this will require a bit of preparation, so you want a sheet of paper with basically like a calendar view. You'll need to go through all your plants and Google how often they need fertilising, and good luck with that, because I've tried and there is a million different results for each one. But if you're the kind of person that's interested in doing this, you'll probably love all that. And you'll need to assign every frequency a lolly stick. So say red was, you'd be fertilising every 2 months, orange every 6 weeks, once a month for yellow, etc. And then you need to make a note of that, and then sort of mark out every 2 months on your calendar, every 6 weeks, and then put a coloured dot so you know which colour gets watered on that day. I do have an article on this, so I'll link it below because I can't explain it very well. And then go around and stick the appropriate coloured lolly stick in your plant. So then you know, you just look on your calendar every time you come to fertilise, say every 2 weeks, have a look and see which colour needs fertilising that day. And yeah, it might take you a couple of hours to set it up, but after that it's just a case of looking at your calendar and thinking, right, all the reds need fertilising today. I don't do that. I will probably never do that, even if I ran a shop, which I will also never do. So yeah, if you can think of a better way to keep on top of remembering which plants need fertilising when, like, please leave comments, but that's the easiest way that I've found. The biggest thing I can tell you about fertilising is it doesn't matter that much. It's important if you want to grow big, luscious plants. But if you're just a beginner, for a start, you've got a year to learn everything else, and then maybe next year, in next summer, you can learn about fertilising, because your plants won't need fertilising until then. But it's really not that complicated. It can just be a case of putting a few drops of fertiliser in your watering can and going around and watering everybody. I think it can seem overwhelming, but as long as you're not heavy-handed, it is hard to get wrong, and your plants will be grateful that they're being fed. They really won't be that bothered that actually they would prefer to be fed every month rather than every 6 weeks. It's better than nothing. So I hope that was helpful, and I hope I'm in a slightly better position than I was last week when I was sort of sat like that. It was comfortable though, so no regrets. So yeah, I'll see you next time.